Amazing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting morning here in really kind of way too hot Palo Alto for Move Monday. It's balmy. It's balmy. What can I say? Thank you, California. We have a bunch of things happening today. For Move Monday, we have a Devnet deploy. We have a fantastic guest speaker here from Mana to talk about what they're building and Move and TypeScript. And we also have quite a bunch of updates for Incentivized Testnet 3, a bunch of REST API changes. The V1 is extremely exciting. Move module publishing and upgrading is coming. And as always, questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into our Twitch chat as well as our Discord in the dev channel. So I know it's very late for the folks from Mana. Would you like to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, are you able to hear me properly?
Loud and clear, Mana.
Okay, should I do the live presentation or should we just go with a video?
How bold are you feeling this morning or this evening or yes?
I don't really trust my network, so maybe we just should go with the video first.
You want to share the video, Max?
Yeah, let me share that video.
And we'll also put that video out into, where's the right place to put this? General?
Yeah, this would be a great place to put it.
All right, we'll put this video out on this Discord general channel. If I can navigate there effectively.
And I will share my screen.
Oh, James, give me a sec.
While we get this up, I would like to take a second to do my weekly spiel. We are hiring. You can go to aptoslabs.com/careers. There are a wide variety of positions that we are hiring for. And you never know, next week, you yourself or someone you know might be sitting here with us. Sorry, Loom does not want to share full screen, but I will do my best. All righty. There we go.
Awesome.
So we do have a little bit larger. Bam, at the remote. Okay. Here we go.
So really talk about MultiTS, which is a transpiler that generates TypeScript SDK automatically from your Move contracts. So I'll probably just talk about 3 features that might be most helpful to Move developers: auto-generated TypeScript SDK, auto-generated TypeScript command line interface, and query feature. So let's jump to the auto-generated TypeScript SDK. I probably don't have time to do. Here's just a snippet of what the auto-generated SDK looks like. So this example here is generated from a very naive lending protocol. The protocol has 2 major components. One is the pool data, which is stored inside the struct that's called lending protocol. Here we can load this struct.
Okay, we are back. Sorry about that. We're having some internet difficulties here in super balmy Palo Alto. Alrighty.
Incredibly super balmy.
Incredibly super balmy. I will continue playing this video. Please let me know as long as you can hear it.
Automatically generate this as a method of the fetch user class, and you can just execute it and get the result you want from your TypeScript SDK or front end. So in addition to generating the TypeScript SDK for your front end, we can also automatically generate a command line utility to invoke your entry function. Just put the CMD attributes on top of your public entry function, and our transpiler will be able to know how to automatically generate the CLI command to invoke this entry function. We also have this query feature, which basically allows you to execute any entry function in simulation mode and extract the output you want from the transaction simulation result. So, for example, here's a snippet that selects a subset of an iterable table and outputs it as a vector. So if you're familiar with Move development, you probably know that there isn't an easy way to fetch all the entries of the iterable table in one go. So with this query feature, not only can you fetch all the entries in one go, you can actually perform selection logic to get a subset of it. So that's probably a few features that I'd like to highlight. What we're trying to do here is turning the transpiler into a comprehensive development framework. So down the road, we'll also be adding hot hat like CLI workflow. We'll be adding event streaming, which basically allows you to update front-end resource state using a stream of events instead of like constantly polling and refreshing. All right, so that's probably all I have to talk about. To end this, I'd like to give you a preview of another side project that we're working on at Hippo. So we're basically experimenting with transpiling from TypeScript back to Move. Might be useful to some of you. So if you find this interesting, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or on Discord. Right, that's it.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Super cool. I think a lot of us who write a lot of TypeScript are definitely very excited about this, and the potential in general for something like hard hat to come to Move, I think, is very needed and would be a huge boon to a lot of developers here. So thank you very much, Mana/Hippo, for sharing and also for building. And I made sure to post these. There's also in the general channel the link to this Loom demonstration, as well as in our Twitch for everyone to be able to follow along. I know that we cut out for a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that everyone can see the full demo if they wanted to. It's pretty cool. Next up on our exciting agenda is our Devnet release.
Awesome. Your weekly regular Devnet release also happened last Thursday. There's lots of improvement and updates in there. You can always read the release notes, but there are some major changes in our staking Move module, which enhance the validator rewards so that they are now based on the proposer performance. So we have been taking the feedback from AIT-2 and then all the metrics or all the data we collected there to see how can we better reward people or validators to perform well. So there is some changes in the staking reward to reflect that. And there's also improvements on the proposer election so that the metrics and the data are now carried over for multiple epochs. And on the CLI side, there's a public, the package upgrades is now also available in the new flow. However, I think last week we did a very quickly new release for the CLI to revert back to the old flow just because the gas cost on the new flow is a little unexpected behavior, but looking for a new release. There's a lot of performance optimizations in the state sync and major changes as our currency code is now APT instead of Aptos compared to a previous one. And now we also have an aggregated BLS signature in consensus. The Move simple map is now copyable. There are some issues on the REST API, so lots of fixes on that. We also fixed the DB backup and restore tooling. So hopefully we will be releasing some documentations on how to back up your validator database and how to restore a node, a validator node or full node using the backup data so that you can bootstrap a node super quickly if the history is really, really long. There's also some really noted breaking changes. The Move object block metadata is renamed to block resource. The gas price has changed slightly. Like I mentioned, the new flow is reflecting some of those, but expecting more documentation around that coming over. And eventually we deprecated stasync v1. All the full nodes, if you're using the new binaries, you are default using stasync v2, which is much faster and efficient. Cool, that's all.
Amazing. Next up, REST API v1 motivations and details.
Everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I'm just going to be quick here, but I'm going to talk about the Aptos API. So we've recently bumped our API to v1, which, well, it started out as v0. V1 brought a variety of different little changes. Is there a good place for me to send a link to people who are tuning in?
Yeah, you can send it to myself or James, and we'll make sure that it gets out to the rest of the channels.
Okay, so they'll send over a link soon for the Aptos node API changelog. So we have a changelog now. The changelog describes some of the major changes to the API. So the motivation for what we did is essentially we wanted to make sure that the API spec, and for those who don't know, our API is defined by an open API spec, so you can easily integrate with it, generate clients, etc. So we want to make sure that the API spec, the clients that we generate from that API spec, all of the tests, the examples, all of that kind of thing are all compatible with each other. So previously, the spec and the API were sort of independent. We hand wrote the spec, so the API sometimes didn't match. We now are in a world where the spec is generated automatically from the API, then the client is automatically generated from that spec, etc. And this is all guaranteed to be compatible and working in our continuous integration system. So that was one of the major motivations for why we've moved to v1. And to facilitate this, we had to switch to a new web server. So some of these little quirks that you might have been seeing with our SDKs, where certain fields are different names and whatnot, are generally driven by this, but we've sort of tightened that up over the last couple of weeks. So hopefully everything should be working pretty well now. And finally, the API is now versioned. So the API is now accessible at /v1. So, fullnode.devnet.aptoslabs.com/v1 will give you the API now. And this will allow us, if necessary, down the line to make breaking changes and then move that to a v2 API and do a graceful migration over time. Yeah, I think that's sort of the high level overview of the API changes. There's a lot of finer details that you can see in the changelog if you want to read more. But if you're a dApp developer, the main place you should probably be looking to check out these changes is the SDK and the SDK changelog, because that provides information on the changes that are more relevant to you as a developer. Whereas if you happen to be a client developer, I know someone out there has written a Go client, you'll probably want to be looking at the API changelog to see how to migrate that across. So we haven't pinned down an exact date. I believe there's some discussion ongoing, but either this week or next week, we will be deleting the v0 API. So make sure to upgrade to the latest version of the relevant SDK. Otherwise, your dApps will stop working very soon. I think that's it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. And an actual big thank you, Daniel, for driving this and leading this across, because this is a huge boon. I know personally as someone who has manually had to edit the open API YAML and seen errors in it and not been sure exactly how much time I can actually spend on fixing it. Problems gone entirely. They're always up to date. They're always perfect. And the clients they generate always make sense. So huge thank you to Daniel for getting us to this happy place.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to the community for putting up with some of the quirks that have come out of these changes. I know there have been a few rough points where things haven't worked how we expected. So I appreciate your patience as we've figured this all out. Hopefully things should be in a pretty good place now.
Thank you very much. And Maggie was joking about how Move Monday is Move Monday, but now Thursdays are Refactor Thursdays.
Throw away Thursday was the name we gave it to the Devnet release. But hopefully very soon we will have a long-lived testnet I don't need wipe anymore.
Yes. Yeah, we are moving quite fast with Move. Thank you very much, Daniel. My awful jokes aside, David, would you like to tell us a little bit about AIT-3?
Actually, this is all for Sherry to
Sherry.
unless if she wants to throw it back over. But before we get there, part of AIT-3 is the Aptos ecosystem, and one of them I'm particularly proud to have somebody else announce. Kent, would you like to share an update with the community?
Yeah, so we've been working on the Aptos wallet internally that we've been releasing to GitHub. We are going to officially release that to the Chrome store, and we're also with that rebranding it to Petro Wallet. I won't get into the branding of it too much. I'm an engineer, but yeah, it means stone or rock and Greek, or in Latin and Greek, and we'll come up with more branding and whole product stuff around that. But just a heads up for this week. Yeah, we hopefully will release it to the Chrome store, and it will be renamed everywhere, and also be using the AIT-3 registration.
That's awesome.
Petra rocks.
Yes.
Why you are on a roll.
Very good, Dad.
Cool. Yeah, we can give you guys a high-level overview of what exactly will happen during AIT-3. Obviously, more documentations and detailed instructions are coming soon, but we just wanted to give everybody a preview of all the operations, activities involved in the AIT-3. Many of you participated in AIT-1 and AIT-2, already familiar with running a node. And then during AIT-2, we actually introduced staking. And then in AIT-3, it's going to be an enhanced and improved new staking model. So we will still keep testing that. So in the AIT-3, there's a couple of things that's new. First is obviously the Petra wallet. Everybody will starting to interact with our wallet and then actually connecting the wallet to a web platform, which many of you already also interact with during the registration on the community platform. So you will be still using the web community platform to register your node and then register your address, your information, and all that kinds of fun stuff. It will be still the similar. It just this time, instead of like completely using the CLI, you will be using the wallet to host your account, your wallet address, and your keys. And then in AIT-3, there's a couple big concepts we introduced. First, like I said, is still the staking. And the second big part is the governance operation. So in this stage, you will be participating in managing our chains and voting for all the changes that are happening on the chain. Similar things like gas price or like staking rewards, like minimum stakes or number of nodes, that type of things, like fun stuff. And then also we will keep doing lots of like operator operations. Many of you experienced that during AIT-2 as well. There is like binary upgrades, updating the validator config. And this time you're also doing a move module upgrades, which is really exciting. It includes the collaboration between updating the node binaries and then submitting the transaction to actually upgrade the modules on chain. And you will see how we do those things like seamlessly without taking down the network. So real upgradabilities of our chain will be tested during AIT-3. And there's going to be, depending on our schedule, obviously we wanted to do lots of testing on node operation, like a backup and restore, like I mentioned earlier. We wanted to have people experiencing, oh, what if I messed up with my node? What if my data got corrupted? What if I lost the infrastructure? How do I restore a validator node very quickly without having to sync from the very beginning of the chain, considering what if our chain become 1 year old or 2 year old. And we wanted to also do operations like manipulating your keys, like rotating your network address and consensus keys that many of you actually asked during AIT-2. Like, what if my IP address changed? What if I migrated to a new DNS domain name? Can I update my network address? All those will be available during AIT-3. So you can imagine for that very short 10 days of period of time, we're experiencing so many different things in combination. So be ready, like staking, governance, module upgrading, binary upgrades, and all that fun operation things related to a node operator. So I'm super excited and looking forward to see you all during the AIT-3, and more docs will be coming soon this week. Yeah.
Super exciting. Things are moving so quickly. Amazing to see that and very difficult actually to believe that we're finally here at AIT-3. It's been such a short time and also such a long time. Amazing how things work. But yeah, unless anyone has anything else to share.
Wolfgang, did you want to do an update on the module publishing by any chance?
Well, it's not really that much news. So you may have seen it landed in Devnet, but then we had to revert part of it because it costs a lot of gas, and we are working on making it cheaper. At least it costed more gas than you had basically by default on for your transaction configured if you have a larger network. So we turned the flag to use the new publishing, which allows upgrading off. Basically, if you want to still play with it, you have to say legacy flow -- legacy flow equals false, because that's true now. And anyway, so like we are working on it, and hopefully I think also for the end of the week, we will have a more thorough documentation, which is probably the best way to talk about it. I could also give a couple of slides here at some later, maybe next Monday or so, but right now it's not much more to say.
Awesome. Yeah, just on that note, we're actually actively reworking many of our tutorials just because they used the old framework that was the module publishing transaction. And so if you're familiar with, I believe it's both Mooncoin and Hello Blockchain, both those use the legacy mechanism. So we're going to actually be taking Wolfgang's great work that's also embedded within the CLI, and we're going to be driving a holistic end-to-end experience for developers in that space through our tutorials. So look forward to a revamp in the coming days.
Fantastic. I think that is the last thing that is on our plate to cover. And now it's a question for the community. What can we answer for you? So one of the questions is, as a Solidity dev, starting with tutorials, will it be tough to pick up Move on the go? No, I don't think it will be. I think, we are working on revamping tutorials, as David mentioned. We're working on adding a bunch of new ones as well over time. But Move makes sense. When you first start with Move, it's a slight paradigm shift in terms of, especially coming from Solidity, but being very resource oriented and having NFT be an actual thing instead of just some data in a map somewhere really lends itself both to easier development cycles, but also it helps prevent a lot of the bugs that you can potentially end up with Solidity of reentrancy attacks, double clones, accidental burns. You define ahead of time before you even create a resource what capabilities it can have and what you're allowed to do with it. So there's a long discussion we can have on this topic, but I highly recommend sticking with tutorials. If something doesn't make sense, the folks inside of our Move language channel in Discord are super awesome, and a bunch of our engineers are in there too. So we'd love to get your feedback on it and also help you out if you have any questions.
There was a question about the excitement that happened over this weekend. So I'll love to take that one in particular with regards to the situation on Discord. It was rather a thrilling, exciting moment, roughly, I think, 3 o'clock Pacific time. So, all of us were up late night coding, so it was a big non-issue. But what effectively happened was one of the moderators accidentally clicked on a link, which resulted in basically giving some low-end access to a rogue bot. And so that bot spammed a couple of channels. The same set of moderators quickly took control of the situation, kicked out the bots, brought it in order. As a handful of us woke up, we did a complete audit of all of the logs, all the server settings, and well, good news is everything is safe and sound. We're moving along. So hopefully, a good lesson for all of us to not click on random links, even if it looks like it's coming from a trusted person. They probably wouldn't send it to you in that way. So, as the community continues to grow, the ecosystem continues to grow. We already know that there are people out there that want to do sneaky and bad things to us. So let's be diligent, let's be aware, and let's continue to communicate about these things and educate each other so we can have a high bar for making sure that Aptos is safe for everyone.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Jump into the type one.
No questions yet that I see in, where's Mo? Mo is back. Mo is back from Korea. Mo is obviously not here. Mo is really busy. I don't know if Avery, do you want to provide any updates from Korea?
I was not in Korea, so I doesn't have much updates for that, other than to say that Mo did things like DJing, meeting lots of people. It was a lot of fun, and I think we'll have a full post about that coming this week.
Perfect.
Sure. There was a question about eligibility for folks that have been historical AITs going into future AITs. Do we have a position on that yet?
For sure. I think like originally we said like every AIT, it will be an independent selection of the people, and then it will be true after mainnet launch as well, all the future AIT. However, for AIT-3, we definitely wanted to repurpose AIT-3 a little bit more towards like preparing all of the people, all of the parties that related for mainnet launch, because we recognize this is really our final opportunities for testing waters and then experience all the things we set up, like, is it really ready for mainnet launch? So we wanted to get it to as closer to mainnet setup or configuration as possible. That's why we wanted to more focus on selecting people that have been demonstrate really strong technical understanding, capability of running a node to help us like experiencing during AIT-3s and then testing our software, really hardening on the governance operation, staking operation, so that we can really have a smooth and successful launch of mainnet very, very soon coming this autumn. And that's why like you will see a little bit different for the selection criteria. We will definitely allocate some of the slots towards the people who have been demonstrate capability during the previous AITs. However, after mainnet launch, we will keep running our incentivized testnet operations, those programs. We will keep involving more community members and then have like more open slots. And even going forward, once we, our technical teams moving towards the roadmap of supporting more and more and thousands of validator nodes, there will be more opportunity open up to get people involved. But we need to take a little bit of time to get there. So be patient with us. And then, yeah, hopefully this time we will get to experience what a preview of mainnet looks like during AIT-3.
Woohoo.
Woohoo.
Another question was, I want to know your roadmap. Well, we have not made a formal post on road mapping for quite a while now. I think if you were to hop into our mediums, you'd actually go back to the introduction of testnets, where we gave an overview of what we foresee the near future to be. And then the white paper landed last week, which I guess we didn't make big fanfare in here because we didn't know if Avery would be available, but he is. And so, yeah, the white paper actually gives a great overview of Aptos now and Aptos in the near future. And so that'd be a great position just to kind of to get yourself aware of all the cool things.
At the same time, multiple independent public-private keys.
So we're currently exploring how we may be able to give signer capabilities to multiple distinct accounts. And so using that type of a framework, you could imagine having each of those own distinct accounts to actually share a single shared account. And so that would be one method of doing so.
Thank you for that question, Paul Pico.
And I guess also if you were to use a one of n multi-signature ED25519, you'd also get the same effect.
Yeah. Let's see. And general questions that I keep seeing here is mainnet coming very soon this autumn. When token is at some point after that. As much as I can say, but as we get closer and as we have more different information that we can provide, we absolutely will.
We're just as excited as you are.
Yeah, we are just as excited to see our project go live as you are. Yeah. That's I don't know if you're seeing any questions.
Does Aptos have anything similar to Metaplex? So we do have a token standard.
Yes, we are working on something like Metaplex, and I don't mean like we necessarily fully internally, but we are hoping to work with people in our community who are working with NFTs, and there are a bunch of projects out there that are building NFT integration to wallets or building NFT marketplaces that have ideas on how to expand the token standard and make it more accessible to other people, similar to the way the whole Metaplex and Candy Shop has done for Solana. So it is something that we are looking at, and if you want to participate, do. It's a fully open standard, and so we came up with kind of the first and the second version of our token standards, but that doesn't mean that it's written in stone, right? This is an ongoing evolving platform, and thanks to the work Wolfgang is doing, it'll be fairly simple to actually upgrade, in place upgrades for token V2 and onwards. So please contribute. Let us know what works, what doesn't. Try the NFT module out. There is a tutorial called Your First NFT, which introduces some of the concepts that we have. Yeah. Any other questions? Can a single Aptos validator be multiple machines that work together?
From a theoretical perspective, 100%. From the current implementation position, the most closest analogy we would have is we actually support divisible components in terms of security concerns. And so you can actually run various different components, such as the core validator on one node. You can have the signer on another node. I think we used to support actually running the executor and the VM on another node. And then, of course, you have your proxies, or HA proxy or load balancers on other nodes. So logging also can happen on another node. Sherry probably knows more details, so I'll stop rambling and give it to Sherry to.
Yeah, I think we do support running a couple of the different components in a different setup. You can even see in our reference implementation, we run validator nodes and full nodes in separate instance, and actually in a different instance, and we support people import like the monitoring, the logging, all of those like Helm modules also into a different components. In the code, there is a safety rule can also be running as a separate processes, separate instance that can be split out. However, for now, we don't see the necessity, the requirement or need to really split them out into multiple instances, because that does adding more operational complexities, and there's like taking more time and resources to managing them. That's why we try to combine them as much as possible. But I feel like people probably asking this question coming from, can I have an instance validator running as a backup? If the first machine died, I can very quickly fall back to the other one. Currently, I think the networking stack will prevent this from happening. The two validator node running the same identity, there's only one can be actually connected to the network. So it's actually not recommended to running the two validator in the same identity, because you can imagine in a race condition, one of your nodes connected to partial of the network and others connecting to another, that might actually result in some of the like downtime for your node, because you have to resolve those conflict of like one node knows parts of the history, others don't. We will think more about like how to provide people better ways of doing fallback, and then have a better reliability plan for doing upgrades, so that we minimize the downtime when you are migrating or when you are upgrading the infrastructure. So yeah, there should be more documentation coming soon on the operational level, and we will think about more how to do a real zero downtime upgrades on the node binary level in the future.
Thank you for the questions, everybody. Someone asked, so I have to respond, of course. We are always hiring. aptoslabs.com/careers. I'm not going to give the full spiel again, but aptoslabs.com/careers. Check it out. Share it with your friends, with your grandmother. You never know. Fantastic. So I'm not seeing any questions in the Discord. I don't know if there's any questions. Suddenly, many questions appearing.
When you threaten them, they come out.
Yeah. Let's see. What is the best way to summarize the white paper?
It's awesome.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Avery, do you want to give a high-level synopsis? You can use 2 more words.
I think the reading the abstract, if you really want to get down to just the first page, it really talks through, I think, the key differentiators that we have for what we're trying to do. I mean, if I really want to summarize it, I think if you think about basically what cloud computing has done for Web 2 today, like how AWS, GCP, Azure, and others have been this foundation for all internet applications in the last decade to spawn up and provide amazing services for billions of users. That's kind of what our space needs, right, for Web 3. We need to have infrastructure that can actually scale, is reliable, performant, gets better and faster and cheaper in the background all the time. And that's, I think, the mission of what Aptos blockchain is trying to do. And it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of effort and hard blood, sweat, and tears. But that's our mission over the coming decades.
Thank you. And if you'd like any more details, I highly recommend you take a look at the white paper.
And just to emphasize, the sweat is due to the balminess.
Yes.
In Palo Alto.
It is very balmy at Palo Alto. The context here is I only moved here like 2 months ago, so I'm not used to this heat. San Francisco is constant 65 degrees. So it's move Mondays and weather updates as well. In case anyone has interested. I can go on and on about it. It's a whole thing.
Ask us about the weather.
So here's a question. So upon V0 API deprecation, does the core team advise publishing using the Aptos CLI or using the Python SDK?
So it depends what you're trying to do. If you're trying to build an application around it, I'd highly suggest you use the SDK, not the CLI. But for one-off testing, being able to interact with things, the CLI is a great way to use that. I have seen the CLI being used for different applications, like I know that Pontum is trying to use it in their IntelliJ plugins for a compilation system. That works great. So it's really dependent on what your use case is.
You can't really just rely on the SDK alone, because the SDK, if you're doing module publishing, module development, you're going to have to kind of bounce between both the SDK to interact with your module, build out your DF, your interfaces, and you're going to be using the CLI to actually publish it. We are not planning to actually support publishing directly in the SDK for the foreseeable future, just because of the complexity around the package management and just all the other really exciting operations that actually help scale up module upgradability and extensibility, but as a result, make SDK management of that a little bit more challenging. But the positive thing is, good tutorials are coming out towards the end of the week. Both myself and Daniel are going to be focused on porting over both the TypeScript and Python demos so everybody can have fun and move along in that space.
And who knows, maybe Mana Hippo will help out there with their development tooling to make it easier to integrate the whole pipeline. So, in terms of requirements to sign up for AIT-3, the non-system requirements, you will be required to complete KYC. We are not a financial entity, but we do want to make sure to screen for people on sanctions list, that kind of thing. So most people have no problems getting through it, of course. Additionally, you'll be required to link the wallet, create an account for us to link your owner account that we will be airdropping into on AIT-3, and you will be required to set up a validator node running on your server in its own private mini network, basically, so that we can then use another tool that Daniel wrote, which is the node health checker, to run benchmarks against it to make sure that you are running on a sufficiently powerful node, that your bandwidth and everything else is sufficiently high, and that you'll be able to actively and successfully participate with this node as part of AIT-3. Let's see.
think we already had a pitch for Aptos from
Yes.
What do you guys seek and explore as of today?
Indexer integration. Yeah, so we are in the process of rebuilding the indexer to use completely different technology. You can take a look at a bunch of the PRs that myself and mainly Bowen at this point are pushing out there. But they make it much easier to do fun things like not only pull data block from block, but it stores it in a S3 or GCS or some other block store, so that in the future, if you want to reprocess blocks or pull NFT data out, you don't need to go to the node directly, right? Because serialization from the BCS to the JSON is some of the most expensive operations in a node for the API. And so by skipping that process and going directly from protobuf stored in GCS, you can very quickly and very across a large amount of parallelism be able to process these blocks. And there's logic for, after parallel processing the blocks, fun things like aggregating. You can do out of order indexing, all these kind of really cool stuff. But once that's complete and that exists in the database, the next part of it is a GraphQL API that we want to put in front of it to expose it to the Explorer and other products so that you can finally do simple things like filter by user transactions, which is something people have been requesting, I think, since the very first day it came out, even internally as a quick private demo that we have not been able to do because it's an expensive thing that would require basically just constantly hammering the node and going back and back until you have enough to fill the page. So there's a lot of exciting things that I think the indexer will unlock, and the core philosophy of the indexer in general is to be able to capture all of the data on the blockchain so that it's available and that in the future, however you want to slice it for whatever views or aggregations or what have you, it exists and it exists in a queryable form. So that's kind of where we're going with our indexer. But I think the question for yourself and the community as a whole is, what would you like to see in our indexer, especially once we have the data? What can we do to make your life easier, and what can we do to make the indexer and the Explorer more useful to your use cases? As part of Aptos' 10-year vision, this is a question specifically.
From Alex, actually.
Yeah, from us. There you go.
Ask it.
Is there a stance on sharding / not sharding?
Oh, great question. Yes. So I think as a part of our white paper, I think the last section refers to some of the thoughts we have with respect to sharding and the ideas that we have for scaling up through the network. I think our stance is basically that we believe that if you want to maintain decentralization, it's going to be very hard to do so by just scaling up validators individually. Scaling up validators individually can be done with any parallel runtime engine. I think Aptos will support that very well, and the way our design is structured with the decoupling of validator stages also lends itself very nicely towards decoupling a validator into actually many different parts. Should we decide to push hard in that direction? That being said, that makes it very difficult for a large number of validators to operate the network because running a data center, managing lots and lots of machines is something that very few can do reliably well. And a lot of us have done that at Facebook for a very long period of time. It usually takes a very large team of folks to do that, and we would worry about the number. The further you push in that direction, generally, the harder it's going to be to get a large number of validators in your network overall. So the only alternative really is to think about sharding as a solution in that space.
Thank you.
Let's see. Cool. So that is kind of all I'm seeing. UBHSM, is it possible? Not today, but there's no reason why not, ultimately. We use
ED25519 keys, and I actually just looked it up because I wasn't familiar with the UBHSM. It does look like it does support ED25519 keys, so in theory, yes, you could use it for signing.
We welcome community contributions.
Yes.
And please build out those integrations for all the hardwares you prefer, you like, your favorites. We'd love to see those type of integration into our CLIs or any of the tools that allow people hosting the keys on a hardware wallet and all kinds of devices you prefer. So please submit the request for contribution.
And we'd love to see those integrate all the wallets as well,
Yes.
obviously.
Does Aptos have a preferred NFT hosting location for mainnet, Arweave, IPFS, on-chain? So there is no one winner that we have at this point. A bunch of us are personally, not as a company, personally partial to Arweave for a couple of reasons. But as a company, there is no, it's neutral. IPFS is definitely also a contender. On-chain is most likely to be too expensive, especially if you're trying to store like a 600 megabyte Beeple JPEG. I would hope it's too expensive, otherwise storage is going to grow very, very fast. But yeah, so standard Arweave IPFS, or even S3 if you don't want the immutability, depending on your use case. Let's see. Cool. And a shout out to James for helping out with the community. Yeah, thank you, James. Yeah, with any questions about partnerships, please reach out to info@aptos.com.
On that, if you're on Discord, please do not reach out to us directly if you want to talk about partnerships, tokens, coins, or really anything that's non-technical, because we're really useless. And we love to talk to you. We would love to be supportive, but if it's not Rust, shell script, Python, TypeScript, or other fun things like that, yeah.
Move.
Even that is debatable, but
The email you can send those requests or inquiries or partnership questions is info@aptoslabs.com.
Yes.
Very simple and easy.
Yes, we should have a QR code or something, or a little jingle. info@aptoslabs.com.
It's done now.
I think that's a great way to end the week.
Thank you, everybody. What a fantastic Move Monday it's been. Thank you for putting up with my weather updates and songs. Thank you, everybody here. As always, have a great week, and we'll see you again next Monday for another exciting edition of Move Mondays.
Thank you.
Bye.